In Genshin Impact, archons have their own origins, goals, and motives. And the more we learn about this world, the more we start to question why they do the things they do, and what are they hiding from us? Or is what they know truly limited? And I believe we saw this demonstrated before us center stage in Fontaine, which has me questioning the entire plotline now. What I mean is concerning our late Hydro Archon Focalors. And was her sacrifice in vain? I know that her sacrifice saved Fontaine and she needed to give the Hydro Authority to Neuvillette, but hear me out, because we recently received some concerning knowledge that may change the way you view this story in hindsight. So let me give you a recap so that we're all on the same page. Not long ago, the people of Fontaine were all Oceanids given their form by the Hydro Archon Egeria using the Primordial Sea, who later passed due to the Great Cataclysm 500 years ago, leaving Focalors as her successor. But being the Hydro Archon also came with a heavy price, because creating these humans with the Primordial Sea is a sin. Archons are not allowed to do this without permission. So Egeria had received a prophecy telling her that her nation will be wiped out by a flood because of her sin. And since she did not survive long enough to see it through, the curse fell on the shoulders of Focalors. And this new Archon, now with the weight of a nation of sinners on her shoulders, had to find a way to fulfill her duty and protect her people. So she thought up the plan to create the Oratrice to harvest energy from judicial trials, and placed herself inside it. But if she herself was inside the Oratrice, who would be the judge? None other than the Hydro Dragon Neuvillette. You see, Focalors knew that Neuvillette was the Hydro Dragon, but this was the whole plan. She knew that her Hydro Authority was not her own, but she also wanted her nation to survive. So being the god of justice, she found a way to protect her nation and return something that wasn't hers to begin with, because she knew her power alone would not be sufficient to stop the flood. But she also needed to confirm that the Hydro Dragon wouldn't just destroy or abandon her nation in its time of peril. So before placing herself in the Oratrice, she created Furina as a decoy. You see, Furina inherited Focalors' human body, made by Egeria, but not her memories or her abilities. All of this remained inside the Oratrice. So 500 years pass, and this was more than enough time for our emotional Hydro Dragon to fall in love with humanity. But the time of the prophecy has arrived. Furina did her job faithfully to the end, and Focalors had generated enough energy for the final act. She reveals in dramatic fashion that she split herself in two, putting her humanity in Furina and her divinity in the Oratrice. And the energy generated was for one purpose: destroying the Hydro Archon's celestial throne, and by default, giving the Hydro Authority to Neuvillette, who she hoped would save her nation from the prophecy. And she was right. Neuvillette had fallen in love with humanity, and he used his reclaimed power to save the people of Fontaine by making them true blood humans. But here's where the problems arise with Focalors' sacrificial plan. I understand that destroying the Hydro Throne means no more Hydro Archons will be chosen, thereby circumventing the heavenly principles, allowing Neuvillette to reclaim his power. But was this all in vain? Did she truly outsmart the heavenly principles? You see, we later speak with our sibling about this, and they say this.
Not long ago, you witnessed the Hydro Archon destroy her divine throne. Yes, such a flagrant disregard for the rules, and still Celestia took no action. I suppose that's proof enough of the heavenly principles situation.
A flagrant disregard for the rules. Wait, so not only was this event known and not a secret at all, but it was also a flagrant disregard of the heavenly principles rules, meaning that Celestia should have acted by now, but they remain inactive. And they have been inactive for 500 years. When you think about it, a bishop sovereign reincarnated from the ancient war just reclaimed his full power, and Celestia did absolutely nothing about it. The enemy is at full power, running their nation, and their Hydro Throne that they created is destroyed, and they did nothing about it, despite the fact that Fontaine is located directly below Celestia. Well, it's located in Liyue, but it's right next to Fontaine. So let's go over things real quick. According to the intel provided by our sibling who has no reason to lie, FOCALOR's plan hinged on the inactivity of Celestia, or else she would have committed a sin even bigger than Egeria. Which means that she didn't have to die at all, because her death was purposed to get around the heavenly principles. But they were never going to intervene in the first place. Thus, her sacrifice is in vain. Also, the moment Celestia wakes up, Fontaine is cooked. But that's besides the point. What makes this truly tragic is that FOCALOR could have lived and executed her plan. Even after creating Farina, her memories and divinity still remained inside the Oratrice. So if she were to give her divinity to Neuvillette in the form of the Hydro Authority, she would simply return back to being an Oceanid, because that's what she was before becoming the Hydro Archon. And we know that Oceanids are just memories and emotions. We also know that one Archon can choose who receives their power because Egeria did it, and they've been doing it for years in Natlan. After which, Neuvillette could create a human body for her because we know he can. He did it for literally everyone in Fontaine with ease, who up until now were just disguised Oceanids. This would also be a flagrant disregard for the rules of Celestia, but it's not like her plan successfully evaded that either. But why didn't she do this? Well, if you look at the timing of the events, FOCALOR locked herself in the Oratrice 500 years ago. Celestia also went inactive 500 years ago. So there is no possible way for her to have known that Celestia was inactive all this time. So she sacrificed her life to avoid an obstacle that wasn't even there. How tragic is that? If only she knew the heavenly principles were inactive, she would still be alive today to live along Farina and Neuvillette. Fontaine has hell to pay regardless, but they could have at least faced that all together. And that is why FOCALOR's sacrifice was in vain. But what do you guys think? Did I miss something? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.